I'm Ann Van Haney, and I just got to talk with Keith Andrew. I had so much fun on his show, and I hope you stay tuned and watch lots of Keith's episodes.
Welcome to
Thanks.
the Keith Andrew Network. It is episode 785. That's right, 785. Today on Keith Andrew Network, we have professional actress, writer, and film director Ann Haney. That's right, we have Ann Haney on the show. What a fantastic show we have lined up today. Now, before we get started, I'm going to do my little announcement, and then we're going to jump right into it. So make sure to like and subscribe to the Keith Andrew Network, and let's get started. Now, before I ask you the questions, it's time for everyone's favorite thing about me, repeating it for the 700th time. It's the Keith Andrew Network catchphrase, the whole point of my talk show. Is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. So prove to them and still amount to something. With that being said, it's a real honor and privilege having you with us. And I just want to state for the record that you do not have to have a learning disability to be a part of the Keith Andrew Network. I like giving everyone an opportunity. So if you have a great story and a message, and hell, you want to make a new friend out of it, you're more than welcome. Now, I usually like to save the message for the second end of the show.
Mhm.
And I know I'm very cartoony. I talk with my hands, but every episode's different. But the first question I want to ask you is, what can you tell our audience about you and a little bit about your background?
All right. Well, thanks for having me on your show today. I am Ann Van Haney, and I am a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a grants manager in global health. I work internationally, and I'm also an actor and writer and filmmaker who's come to all of this artistic stuff in middle age. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
No, absolutely. So you're a jack of all trades.
Yeah. Hopefully master of something at some point, but yeah.
I feel the same way. So the first question I want to ask you is, who influenced you to become a professional actress, and how many years have you been acting?
Gosh, my early influence, I've got to say, was Julie Andrews. I was obsessed with The Sound of Music from about the time I was 4. And then in high school, I had the most amazing drama teacher, Julie Anderson. So another Julie. Uh, but Mrs. Anderson was really great about not just saying everybody should try to do something creative, but she also talked about the nuts and bolts of, having headshots and having a resume and how to go on auditions and how to think practically about it through the twists and turns of life. I did go to college and grad school. I got my MBA and pursued the more I wouldn't say corporate because I worked in nonprofits and universities my whole career, but a little bit more of a steady paycheck kind of a path. But it was around the time my daughter was born, I just felt like it's a time to reassess everything. And I wasn't getting any sleep and whatnot, but my family moved down from Seattle to California after she was born. And I just thought, I'm here. I'm within spitting distance of Los Angeles. If I don't just give this a try, that I've got a child and I'm not sleeping and I'm not like the size 2 21-year-old anymore, but if I don't give it a try now, I'm always going to kick myself for not trying, not going for it, not exploring it, not at least seeing what's possible. And it's been a really good experience to come back to this, I would say, older and wiser. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I agree. Now, the next one I want to ask you, same question, it's trade acting or being a writer.
Oh, well, I've also been writing since I could write. I remember giving people stories for birthday presents when I was a kid. I remember the one time I got in trouble in school, it was for creating a story and performing it on the playground. And it was apparently so mesmerizing that people didn't go back from recess in time. And so, of course, they all told the teacher it was my fault. But, I'm actually still proud of that. I mean, if you're going to go down on the playground, it's got to be for making a great story. And again, I've been writing my whole life, but just not sharing it. And that was another thing where I thought, if I don't give this a try, if I don't see what's possible, I'm going to kick myself. And when you come back to something and really look at it after actually having life experience, it's huge because there's that goofy old phrase, write what you know. And I mean, when you've actually gone through things and experienced stuff in life, it's a lot different than writing about something that you haven't had any ideas about yet.
No, you're absolutely right. And it could be worse. It's not like you were selling drugs or, teaching people to count cards, even though if that isn't illegal to know how to count cards, you don't do it like, like a moron. Like, okay, so it's 18 plus 2. Dude, are you counting cards? No, I'm actually thinking to myself. If you can think to yourself in your head, and you can get away. I'm not encouraging people to count cards in casinos or anything, but it's a good hobby to have.
Yeah, it's good to be observant. Yeah.
And then the other question I want to ask is, have you ever thought about being a ghostwriter, and have you written any books?
I have not considered being a ghost writer. I feel like I've been a ghost creatively for much of my life, so I'd rather, be out there loud and proud about what I'm doing. Um, I have not written any books yet. I wrote a play last year. I've written a few plays since then during quarantine. It's kind of crazy how productive you can be when you can't go anywhere. Yeah, I wrote my first full-length play last year, and I registered it for a copyright. I performed it and everything just before the whole world shut down.
No, absolutely. Now,
Mhm,
here's just two ideas for you.
mhm.
You can write a play about anything. So, for an example, say someone, I'll throw myself underneath the bus. I'm a big fan of the human pyramid stuff. I actually came up with the human pyramid challenge. Can
Mhm.
you write a play about that? Number one. And would you be interested in helping me with my book?
Oh, wow. Would I be interested? Could I write a play about a human pyramid? I could write a play about a human pyramid. Um, Something that fascinates me about not just a pyramid, but about any situation is what brings people there. What kinds of life experiences bring people there? What kinds of insights are they having? And what kind of random thoughts are they having while they're in the pyramid? Because they're not just thinking about being in the pyramid while they're there. And helping with writing your book, I guess it would depend on the book and what kind of help you would like. But I'm honestly not into being a ghostwriter, but I'd be happy to be a collaborator and an advisor.
All right, well, we can definitely talk about that off the air.
Mhm.
I make a lot of jokes about the pyramid stuff. I'm a loser. I like that stuff. But I mean, like some of the comments are like, dude, are you supposed to go on a diet or something? Just like random stuff like that. It makes it more funny. Of course, you're not supposed to laugh because then you gotta fall. But if
Oh,
you do it like a comedy skit, you can have fun with anything, to be honest.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I'm thinking about things that I've thought about. Like I remember doing pyramids in PE class back in school, and thinking about what are we going to have for lunch after this? What color is the handout going to be in science class today? Or does Tom Jenkins like me? Those kinds of things. Or did I take my sandwich out of my locker 2 days ago? I hope so.
Or did I happen to turn the stove off before I left the house?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But like I said, you have to have fun with everything. You can't take everything
Mhm.
too personally. But the
Mhm.
last question I want to ask is, you mentioned you are a filmmaker. Have you ever thought about doing a documentary? And what's the difference between a documentary and a reality series, excuse me.
Oh, yes. Actually, I have thought a lot about doing a documentary. I just enrolled in a documentary production class with the Sundance Collaborative, and so I'm going to be starting that in a couple of weeks. And I'm going to be focusing on a documentary about DNA testing, and the great things it can show, and also maybe the not so great things it can show. I did a DNA test and discovered that my biological father was not who my mom and I thought it was my whole life, and so it's been quite a journey. And there are people all over the US and all over the world going through similar experiences, and it's really something that causes you to rethink your entire life outlook, your entire identity, and all of a sudden you've got this whole other set of relatives and heritage and history that you haven't had any exposure to before. um, so yes, I'm really excited to work on this documentary. And the difference between a documentary and a reality series is that a documentary is, I would say between 10 minutes and 2 hours generally, but it's telling one story in one fell swoop. A reality series focuses on capturing just snippets of things, and yes, there is a story arc for a reality series, but it's episodic, so it's told in installments, and it might follow a lot of different storylines instead of having one story through line.
Absolutely. Now,
Mhm.
do you think I fall under any of those categories?
For your show,
Yes.
well, it's a talk show, right? Uh,
True.
but that's a good question. Are talk shows reality shows? I had not considered that before. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you're not like, some of the reality shows,
Yeah.
I mean, they make a really unreal reality because they think it's going to make good TV or something really juicy and salacious. But that's not what I see that you're doing. You're showing a slice of life, and that's really great that you're just capturing the moment and being in the moment.
Absolutely. I would love to turn myself into a reality show. That's on one of my bucket lists. Of course,
Uh-huh.
the oxymoron and the big elephant in the room. Everyone wants to become famous. But I don't want to be a one-trick pony.
Mhm.
But what I mean by that is, when we're going to take a commercial break, I will explain what I mean by that when we come back.
Okay.
I'm Penny Fine.
Hi, it's Mimi Chen.
Hi, my name is Ellen Dorsch.
Miss Shauna Toth.
Hey guys, I'm Anastasia Edwards.
Hi, this is Jackie Nunez.
Hi, I'm Amelia Rose.
Darren Sakieta. Hey guys, I'm Alexandria Denise, and you're watching Keith Andrews Show. He's doing a terrific job. Make sure you like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Keith Andrew Network. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button on YouTube. The Keith Andrew Network available on YouTube. Keith Andrew Network available on YouTube.com, Facebook, Pinterest. Most said interest. So like, what the hell is an interest? Pinterest and all social medias. Make sure you do hashtag Keith Andrew Network. The first one I want to ask you is, a lot of people have their, and this is uncensored, by the way, so you can say anything you want, say anything you want, talk about anything you want. It's PG-13, but it is uncensored. You do have the right to say anything you like. Some people just have their heads way up their ass. A lot of people can say that about me, but there's something, if you're interested, called Cameo. And if people are like asking, hey, if you want a video from me, it's $60, $70. And I'm like, oh, we can talk to this person. Like, it's $1. I didn't know. It's like, I thought it was like a one-time payment. It's like, oh, for $5, you can text me a message. And I'm like, oh, cool, $5, and I can talk to you anytime. No, that's $5 every time. you send a message. I'm like, okay, so there's a catch to it. But then you have some of these other big stars are like, oh, if you want a shout out from me, you have to pay $600. Like, dude, you know what I can do with $600? I can do a lot with $600. Paying someone $600 for a 30-second video, it's kind of like, nope, I don't have stupid written across my forehead. But Celebrity and Cameo are something you should be interested in checking out. You interact with the famous celebrities. Of course, they ask for outrageous amounts of money, but of course, that's how, with the pandemic, people make a living. But the question I want to ask you is, how you been during the pandemic, number one, and have you worked with people with disabilities, and are you willing to work with people with disabilities?
Oh, okay. Well, okay, going back to Cameo real quickly. I would say that, I mean, celebrities and public figures have always been charging for their appearances. So I guess it's just another way of doing that. And, people have been collecting autographs and paying for autographs. So it's kind of in that realm, and it's kind of a fan thing. Like you get the value out of it that you want. Would I pay $5,000 for a baseball? No, but somebody will. And then during the pandemic, it's been wild. It's been this huge time of reflecting on everything. And it sounds cheesy to say that I've really had a good time, well, I've had a good time. Yeah, right. But, I've had a lot of time to think about what's really important. And it sounds like such a cheesy thing to say that, but it really, a time like that really does make you assess what your priorities are, what you want to focus on, where you want to put your energy. I mean, even who you want breathing on you right now, right? Do I want to go into a stadium full of people? No, not right now. Have I worked with people with disabilities? Yes, I have. One of my early jobs was at a TDD TTY relay. So back in the early 90s, before we all had all these great technological devices, if deaf and hard of hearing and deaf blind people wanted to make phone calls, they needed to use a relay service. And so some of my colleagues were deaf, some were hard of hearing, some of my colleagues used a wheelchair. So yeah, I've worked with disabled people, people with disabilities, in that job and at other jobs. And yeah, I'd be happy to work with someone with a disability.
Well, absolutely. Not to make jokes now. I was just thinking, you mentioned wheelchair. I always thought about turning a wheelchair into like a car. Of course, you can't use your legs, but imagine just having a wheelchair with like a license plate on it, little blinkers. And like, oh, don't worry, I'll be there in 10 hours or whatever. Whatever. I don't need a car. I'm pretty much in a cage right now. I can just automatic myself, push myself to, like, say, you travel to the city, or of course you have to stop and refill and recharge. But okay, is it realistic that you're gonna paddle yourself down to New Jersey or New York? But if it's locally, if you want to go out for a walk, it isn't really that far fast of turning your wheelchair into something more, because it's really depressing being in a wheelchair. So why don't you turn it into something? Like, you can have one automatic one, you can have like blinkers on it, turn it into something useful and not have this like deadpan expression like, okay, I'm in a chair, I'm depressed. Oh, press this button, press that button. If we can send people to Mars, for God's sakes, we can do stuff with wheelchairs.
Well, I mean, I think it also depends on the comfort and whatever's most practical for the person who's using a wheelchair. Some people might want a lot of bling, and some people might not. Yeah. One of my high school friends used a wheelchair, and he liked to have flags and stuff on it. But other people don't. It really is personal choice and personal aesthetic. And I think, yeah, it should be up to each person. One of the things that frustrates me is the steps that people have to go to, and even having personal fundraisers and whatnot, just to be able to get the technology that they need to function in life.
Right.
I mean, whether it's like a decent wheelchair or a hearing aid or something else. I mean, it's just mind-boggling the hoops that people have to go through just to be able to get stuff so they can do their thing.
No, I agree with you. And especially with the pandemic, a lot of people are like, we can send people to Mars, we can make robots. I don't know why the hell you want to make robots, even though, yes, it sounds cool, I have a robot friend, but we've seen Terminator how many times? And we know that's not going to work out. But whatever, hopefully that doesn't happen. Or, with the next, God forbid, pandemic, turn into freaking zombies. So now you have to worry about zombies along with the robots. It's like people don't work. But what I'm going to ask you is, I actually lost my train of thought. What I was going to ask you is, people think we're so technologically advanced, but the truth of the matter is, no, we're not. Because yes, it's great we can make robots and go to space, but we can't find. It took a year or so for us to get an antidote from something that was made into a lab. And it's kind of like, we have all these viruses coming up. Shouldn't we focus on making antidotes and making people live longer than saying, yeah, let's go to space and go to Mars and turn that into a dumpster fire? We already messed up Earth, but anyway, but saying we need to work on the basics, help the homeless, work to get rid of the stupid virus, even if that's a possibility. Now they're saying it will never go away. It's got to be like the flu. But it's kind of like, you can't say we're so advanced when we can't take care of the most simple things. Why say Mars and space when you can't take care of a virus, if that makes any sense?
Yeah. One of the things that it makes me think about is that there could be some kind of, I don't know, I won't say a cure, but there could be some kind of a substance or something to be learned by going through the exercise of going to Mars. You can find different ways to help enhance health, or to help make people more bulletproof. Well, I don't really want to say bulletproof either, because I don't think that's realistic to make people bulletproof. But to help people to have healthier lives and better quality of lives. What I would love to see is more collaboration between these different groups. One of the things that was frustrating to me is, like, at the start of the pandemic, thinking all of these different government science groups around the world were working on stuff separately. If they could all work together, just think about how much time that would cut down on coming up with solutions and whatnot, instead of just having to have bragging rights about being the first place to do it, or having the corner on the supply of vaccines. It just doesn't serve humanity well in the long term. And if we could look at how these people working on these amazing technologies to go into space, maybe they could make the most ergonomically friendly aerodynamic wheelchair, using that same technology, using that same know-how. Why can't these groups collaborate more across their titles and their acronyms? That's what I want to see.
No, absolutely. Now you can make a solar powered wheelchair.
Hey, yeah. Why not? That's a brilliant idea.
Well, if you go ahead, try to take my idea, make sure we go half on that.
Oh, sure.
But one thing I do want to say is, wrapping up our talk show, how can people follow you on social media?
Oh.
And I want you to be brutally honest. When I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what was your first opinion when you got the message? What made you say yes, and how do you feel now?
Okay. You can follow me on social media on Instagram. I'm Vanalama, Vanalama. On Twitter, I am also Vanalama, Vanalama. And yeah, so please follow me on social media. I don't know. I don't have like a regular time that I post anything or whatnot, but I do try to put stuff up every week. And oh, let's see. How did I feel when you first approached me to be on your show? I was flattered. I thought, oh wow, this is really neat. I haven't received a lot of interview requests yet, and so it's an honor to be here. Thank you. And yeah, I'm glad I said yes, and I'm glad that you're doing this talk show.
No, I appreciate it. There's so many people that have say, "Oh, I have a podcast. I have a podcast. I want to hit you on my show."
Mhm.
But it's kind of like, I give you an example. I recently reached out to Mick Foley. He said, "I want to have you on the show,"
Mhm.
and he says, "Well, I'm so booked up," and I'm like, "Okay, it's fine, but I want to state for the record, just because you're a professional wrestler, it isn't a wrestling interview. It isn't a shoot. It isn't going to be like stupid questions like, oh, whoa, what was it like being hit in the head with a steel chair or anything? It isn't anything like that. It's a normal conversation. You're making a new friend out of it, and you're supporting a good message.
Mhm.
And you look at other talk shows, I'm like, why am I watching this? This is a stupid thing. And I'm not saying all talk shows are bad. I try to hold myself to a higher standard,
Mhm.
but it's kind of like, it isn't monkey see, monkey do. Well, if he can do it, I'm going to ask the same copy and paste questions. It's got to be different. So all I ask for people out there is give me a chance and let me just prove myself I'm different than other people.
Yeah.
But the other question I want to ask you, wrapping up our talk show, is, what was your overall experience been from being on this episode? For someone who wants to walk up to you and say, I saw you on the Keith Andrew Network, would you recommend me having myself on there?
Oh, wow. Well, I've had a lot of fun talking with you this morning, so thank you again for reaching out to me. And if someone asked me about my experience and wanted to know if they should come on the show, I would say yes, absolutely. It's fun. Take the leap. Do it. Talk with Keith.
No, absolutely. Now, I do have a couple questions for you off the air, but wrapping up, everyone on the Keith Andrew Network Galaxy, that's what I call my fan base now, the Keith Andrew Network Galaxy. Make sure to like and subscribe to the Keith Andrew Network on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road. So I want to say thank you for your time.